headline. The Triglavians are in low sec. We'll look and see what's going on there. Elo Knight and Legacy are duking it out. I believe Ron USMC is FC for Legacy. I'll have to look into that. In other news, a Vanquisher is for sale. The going bid is 200 billion. That's in Basgarin. That is a station in the middle of the map in general, specifically in Cinq-les-Cents region. And you can place a bid on that if you want. We'll look at that. So we were kind of having a chuckle at Galaxy 2 and how on the rails Eve would look if it existed.
It's amazing. It's like the on the rails cheap light version of Eve Echoes.
If you have headlines that you would like to contribute, Talking in Stations Discord would like to give you a place to write it down. Just write a quick summary, a TLDR, that is too long, didn't read, in a channel called Sourced Headlines. It's open to the public to write headlines. Just make sure that you don't just drop a link. You have to actually write what it is so that people can decide if they want to touch the link and go forward. Hey, Ashtrathi. I think Ashtarothi.
How's it going?
Yeah, I called you Ashtrathi.
Close enough for government work.
Yeah, exactly. We just started, and we were talking about the headlines there. The first one that we want to look at is Triglavians in low sec. You run into
that? That one's interesting since we have actually no reports of it actually happening. All day yesterday, I was putting out tweets. I found, unless you guys have heard something, I've had zero contact with any Triglavians in low sec. That being said, there is the new site, the new emerging conduit in highsec that has already become quite popular.
Are you talking about the construction platform?
No. So there's a new site, a new Triglavian site that appears anywhere in highsec. It's called an Emergent conduit. It looks exactly like a minor conduit, but it has the Rasnaborg Triglavians inside of it. And it is 3 waves long. It has roughly 10 to 50 million ISK worth of loot per site. It can be easily soloed with a good cruiser or above. And it's worth 4.5 million in 300 LP for 3 people as a reward. So you can either solo it and get 4.5 million in 300 LP, or you can have 3 people and each of them will get 4.5 million LP or ISK. 4.5 million ISK and 300 LP. So if you solo it, you're basically leaving 9 million on the table, 600 LP. But like I said, with loot and salvage, that's another 10 to 50 million per site.
Wild. So, in your quick assessment, because this really just started yesterday, those sites are worth doing?
So far, a lot of people have really liked them. The reason why they're so popular is because it seems like clockwork that as soon as one gets finished, a new one opens within the same system within 1 minute that is viewable from the probe scanner. So you can literally just roll these things nonstop.
Right. They used to call that cycling, right? You basically finish one while the opportunity for the next opens up, and that used to occur in ratting and nullsec, where you would destroy all the rats near one asteroid belt. Then you'd run to another one, and then a third one, and then a fourth one. And by the time you finished the fourth one, the first one had respawned, and you would just cycle through that over and over and over again.
There is a certain amount of feeling that this is almost like a better anom, right? Because you find him on the probe scanner just like a normal anom. You go there, there's multiple waves. You know, the next wave comes when you kill the last one. So mechanically, it's very similar to a anom that, from my understanding, or from, we haven't seen yet, but it doesn't seem to escalate or anything like that. But in all other ways, it's like a pretty cool anom that's way better than any anom ISK that you'll get in highsec. So it makes me curious about what kind of things they're going to do in lowsec and nullsec.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll look out for that. There's a few more things that maybe you would be interested in. The Triglavians are now spawning in lowsec. Currently invading systems are Gondista, Fency, Asabona. Overall, this makes 6 live invasions split between highsec and lowsec. I assume there's 3 in each.
That's new and different.
Yeah, that just happened this morning.
I'm logging in right now to see what I
And
can see about it.
While you're logging in, the ARC has put out a new post confirmation of a new Triglavian construction platform. And this is the note from Makoto Priano. We are currently receiving camera drone stills 31 that indicate the existence of a new classification of Triglavian construction platform in abyssal space. More information as we receive it, as we get better footage of the structure or the objects under construction. And I'll put up a picture of what that looks like for people. If not, you can find this in the forums under ARC. It's so dark.
Oh yeah, this is actually a big deal.
You're talking about what now?
The lowsec invasions. So there are actually invasions that are not, as of today, there are invasions that are not bleeding into lowsec, but whose foothold is in lowsec.
Yeah.
That's new and different and scary.
Yeah, that's what we just heard earlier this morning. So it's starting. I mean, they said it was going to happen. So there it is.
There it is.
I'm using some Photoshop skills to bring out a better view of this Triglavian thing. I'm almost done there.
Oh, the Dreadnought construction yard or whatever?
Yeah, I'll bring that up in just a second.
There's a great video that was made when it was still on YouTube, or when it was still on Sissy. Let me find it.
It's funny. It's faster to screenshot the image than it is to save it. There it is. Okay, that took a while. In graphics, there's all kinds of things to worry about. And when you're doing video or streaming, one of the things is not resolution, which is usually a big deal. So what I'll do is I'll put this up and show you guys in just a second what that construction platform looks like that ARC was talking about.
I posted the video from, well, it was still on Sissy.
Let's have a look at this construction platform. There you go.
I think you should actually see if you can't use the video feed, Manuel, if you can. It's really, really good.
Oh, what video feed?
The one Ash just gave you in link.
Oh yeah, let's grab that.
It also shows all the hostiles.
All right,
I should have known better with it being Tuesday and then today's Wednesday. So of course this is when everything actually starts. I'd almost forgotten how the chaos arrow worked.
How does a chaos arrow work?
Well, if you remember back when it was like the rollout was happening of Invasion, every week it was Wednesday. That was the thing that was causing the change, because they would put in whatever they patched they needed to do on Tuesday, and then they would activate it on Wednesday morning. So each advancement of the Triglavian invasion happened on Wednesday, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, wow, this thing is really big. It's hard to get the sense of scale when you're able to move the camera out so far.
See, I really
well,
think
you can see the Lashak flying at the top.
What's that, Caleb?
I think we should build like this. I think we should have visible things happening in space when we build dreads and titans and whatnot. I think we should go back to discussing that. It was already on the table when structures were discussed in the focus group.
Yeah, there was the famous picture of a gate being built by all these little ships, and that was what we thought would happen. It would be a process that would take several days or even weeks, depending on the size of the structure, and you would see the scaffolding building this thing, basically. Instead, you have a light
There's a
show.
picture of the Sodio building the Titan
Yeah.
that ended up not working out.
Right. Well, that was the Setio building the Titan was going to have it moored like a shipyard. And that
No, I was going to show you when it was under construction.
Yeah, so you could tell what was in it. Like, oh, this one has 3 or 4 Titans being built. Let's attack it. Or this one has nothing being built. Like, it was part of the. It was basically going to be a really interesting way of seeing them in construction, but also give you some intel about what's in that building array. But
And
yeah,
you could do it something like real life, right? You could say, okay, you can't see it when it's in dry dock, but when it goes into the wet dock, it actually starts showing. So you could make it only the last parts of the building process, right?
Right. Okay.
Right, but I remember there was some technical problem that made it so that they could not end up doing it. It's not like they just decided not to do it in the end.
But doesn't this show that maybe they've overcome that problem?
It could show, especially since you also see the scaffolding around Jita, it could show that they're working on some workaround of it, of course, yes.
Okay, so check that out in the EVE forums. You're looking for the ARC. They found a new construction platform. The author is Makoto Priano. Also, I see here there is a new dev blog. When did this come out? No, this is not new. This came out a while ago, and it is CCP Falcon now asking for submissions for player speakers. So if you're interested, I don't think you're supposed to post in here. You just want to read, you just want to write them. I think, well, we should look at the instructions. Not everybody's going to EVE Vegas, but this will be streamed. So if you go and you speak at the convention, the players are actually able to see what you said, and then it's recorded so people can go back and see what you said later on. So it's a good way to, if you're an expert in something, to be able to show that. Oh, I see, Astrothi. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen. Yeah, I didn't remember seeing these things constructed in that way. These are the... Really? There it is. So this is the proposed construction of a Titan in a building array. You can see the Setio is really huge. So the Titan is much smaller. I believe this is Photoshop work, though. This wasn't anything they built. And
Correct. This is a concept art.
Yeah.
And like I said, when it came down to it, they could not, for whatever reason, make it so that you could see what's under construction. It never actually made it to any sort of technical realization.
Yeah, which is too bad because it was interesting strategic play, but it was also just beautiful and more imaginative than what we have now, which is nothing really.
Well,
and to be honest, it also makes it feel like you've participated in the process of building something this size, right? It's an accomplishment to see it being built.
You know what would be neat is to each like the ship would have some kind of marking on where it's what Setio birthed it or whatever. Yeah, Ashtrathi, you were saying?
Yeah, they were just wanting to do more stuff about that with items and construction and stuff. But what I was going to say is that this was part of a larger effort of CCP to add things to the structures that allows you to see when they're working, when they're not working, you know, all that sort of stuff. And so I think that stuff like that was realized in the refineries and the shooting the moon, right? So there's this whole process that can be watched visually that represents what's happening mechanically inside. So, I mean, they did nail it a couple of times, but yeah, it would have been nice to watch Titan get built.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so that's that. Right now, there's a big fight going on between Legacy and TEST, and Elo Knight was taking on. Like, we don't know the results of that fight yet. Actually, there's a different channel if you want to tune into that. I think it's over, but I'm not sure. And that is Zpando. Zpando, which is Z-A-H capital P-A-N-D-O. And he's FC for the initiative. He's probably working bombers trying to get to that battle. Or it's over and he's seeing if there's anything to mop up. Something like that. But the fight looks like it went... where did it go? It's here somewhere. There it is. Just looking at the quick results. This one goes to... Looks like it goes to Legacy, 60 to 30% efficiency. Looks like Fraternity lost a ton of ships, 292. Legacy lost 80. And these are subcap fleets. So they're big, but they're subcap fleets. Looks like a lot of Feroxes and Cereberesses. Yeah, that's so that's what got wiped out. It might be, I know the test is under tremendous pressure right now, so is Brave, especially Brave. Brave's out of the Supercap umbrella security zone, so it's getting attacked and wailed on pretty much constantly, at least every day, if not every few hours. And it's not just Fraternity that's doing this. It looks like it's people who want to have a good time from all over. So you have even Goonswarm attacking Legacy. Although I think that's come to a stop because maybe complaints from TEST were like, hey, this is all fun and games to everybody else, but we're in the middle of a war and you guys are tiring us out, so we don't want to form up for the actual war. So instead of attacking us, why don't you help us since you're our ally? And that is the message coming from TEST over to the Goonswarm or the Imperium. And lo and behold, the Imperium has deployed out to the backyard of Fraternity, which is going to put some pressure on them. And Fraternity then will have a two-front war. So they'll have to dedicate some resources to holding off the Goonswarm that's hanging around in Fatabolus, I think. No, it's not Fatabolus. It's in some other. Yeah, that's the Fraternity territory. So that's going to heat up and be interesting. It may also be an additional reaction to Pandemic Legion moving into the area and helping Fraternity fight with TEST. If you might remember that Pandemic Legion has a grudge against TEST over Providence when the stations changed. Pandemic Legion had captured all of Providence and was going to take those stations, but at the last minute, TEST swooped in and took it from them. So there's still some grudges there, I think. All right, that's what's going on in the war.
Do you know what happened to Laserhawks yesterday?
No, I do not.
It was brought to my attention that apparently they have a holding corp or a holding alliance, and they destroyed one of their own Fortizars and then blew up a whole bunch of ships. And we've been trying to figure out what actually happened.
Internal struggle?
Hard to say.
I'll have to check that out. It's a cool thing about having nearly 3,000 people in public channel here at the TIS Discord.
It is sure handy. There's no better way to find out the truth behind something than to be wrong on the internet.
Well, I just throw it out there and we'll see if somebody writes me back. Some people write in private and those are a little more credible. Some people write in public and usually it's people who don't know what's really going on. So we'll see if that helps. But Laserhawks is a Wormhole corporation. And wormhole corporations are always a little harder to get information on.
They're also always doing really weird things. So
All right, so well, just hearing they're dead, but that could be just a joke 'cause that's in public. Okay, so that's what's going on. What are you guys up to? That's pretty much the news.
You're watching that horrible copy paste of Eve Echoes.
Oh yeah, we were checking that out.
Second Galaxy, the mobile game.
Yeah.
Basically, we've been playtesting them in TIS voice channel, and it's been quite entertaining. And already the Steam players are it looks like they're Eve players just crapping on the game. So yeah, quite entertaining.
In Steam.
Yeah, in the Steam reviews of Second Galaxy, it looks like it's a lot of Eve trolls going crazy.
Unleash the Eve
it's
trolls.
like Eve, but worse. Is a hell of a review on Steam.
Pretty much.
Well, it seemed like it was okay. First of all, it looks like a mobile game, which isn't a bad thing, but that's probably why it's such a small download. I think it's 1.5 gigabytes. But the response that what we were watching earlier this morning is that it seems like the whole beginning is scripted with a little bit of free will for you to do
completely
something.
on the rails. It's like playing Eve with an auto drive mode where it just does everything for you.
Yeah.
Well, has anybody seen the outside of Jita today?
Yeah, not today, but yesterday. Yeah. Didn't see
Well,
anything new.
because if the lowsec invasion started today, it makes me wonder.
I'll go have a look.
Well, if they're smart and they're planning on some event, it shouldn't hit until 2 hours from now. That's usually peak hour.
I think they could roll it in at any time.
Yeah, but if you want maximum eyeballs, you want it to kick off around peak, right?
I'll fire that up. Okay. So I'm turning on the game, so we'll have a look at that in just a second. Turk, they're looking for speakers. Any interest?
Nope.
You're not gonna.
Dirk went silent. The game is dead.
No, I'll be speaking at the pool.
I'm speaking at the pool. That's where I do my talking.
Although I did, I think hopefully recruit. There's a guy. He goes by Astro Engine out on Twitter. He's a real published astrophysicist and whatnot. And I think I got him to. I'm pretty sure he put in his thing for a presentation. I'm like, dude. You really need to get up there. And I mean, basically, kind of like I want to say somewhat kind of like what Max does. Like real world science type shit.
Yeah.
So, I think that would be cool. I mean, I've read a lot of work that he's done and stuff like that, and it's articles that he's written and stuff like that, and he looks really interesting, which I think.
So you're working on him to get him to be a speaker.
Yeah, I think he put it in last night. So because like honestly, this seems a little bit delayed in the whole user submission thing, right? I mean, what are we 42 days or something like that from from there? So I don't know. I was waiting for that stuff to kind of come out soon.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by this because I had actually written off my ability to go to Vegas completely. So, because I thought that this would already been locked in by now.
You're thinking of going again?
Say again?
Why are you thinking of going?
Yeah, no, I want to go. And my dad even said he'd get me a plane ticket, but I couldn't get the actual ticket. So this would help with that.
Okay, so we got an answer in local there. We don't know if it's true, but we'll look. It says, hey, Matterall. Hello, I'm from the Laserhawks Intel Division. I can report to you that the structures in question belong to a potential Beans spy. As such, we have removed the Fortizar in question.
That makes sense, and that's one of the things that I was suspecting, because we saw like members that were part of one group that attacked. Like these guys all had history to each other. Like, so it seemed like they were AWOXing, but at the same time, how do you AWOX a Fortizar, right?
Mm-hmm. That I think is true because Pocahontas, I believe, was a guest on the Wormhole show Monday. So, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like it's the same group. In which case, that's probably accurate.
Yeah, that definitely jives with what we were seeing.
Boy, that feels pretty good to call out and to get an answer that's actually real instead of
Hell yeah, it does.
garbage. You know, this is great. Thank you for responding in a truthful way. It's, you know, we all want to know what's going on in Eve, and there's been this culture of like just not to be helpful, not to tell people what you're doing. Okay. Dirk, what have you been up to? I see you talking to Matani in local, on Talking in Stations Discord for
Oh, in public?
couple days now, yeah.
I don't think it's been, we've been talking to each other. I think it's just been, he's been there at a time that I've been there. It's, he's got his thing he's saying, and I've got my penny and a half that I'm contributing, you know.
You've got your moderation hammer in case things get out of line.
Yeah, it's been pretty chill.
And
What has he been saying in the last 2 days or yesterday? Basically, what has been going on in public there? It seems to be a discussion, and I think I know that he's in Talking in Stations because of all the yellow characters on the right hand side, which all have CCP in front of them. So I think you have Hilmar, you have Rise, you have Falcon, you have all these big names from the company sitting there. And he seems to be doing real talk, which makes me think that he's talking to them through the people.
I don't know if it's that tinfoily.
Yeah, it's a friendly platform for him to use to communicate, and I think that's good.
I don't even want to say that it's a friendly platform. It's not. How do I put it? It's not an echo chamber, right? You know, it's like, I mean, I'm sure that he says very similar things, either within an INN Discord or, you know, obviously, you know, in his other mediums of discussion. I think he's actually putting out his sort of, you know, either real talk or narrative, depending on how you want to, you know, look at it, right? In a place that has a more, you know, mixed crowd that isn't fucking Reddit.
Yeah. And he's given room and space to talk. If people are just coming at him, or anybody, if anybody's just coming at them to derail them or to crap on them, we kind of keep an eye on that sort of thing. So it's a much better place to have a more serious discussion than
I wouldn't point out. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily point out him any more than, you know, Olmeca coming in and, you know, saying whatever he's got to say, or Dunk coming in and saying whatever they got to say, right? You know, I mean, they're just
absolutely.
Yeah, it's you know, it's not like he's somehow using it differently than anybody else sort of uses it. I mean, I don't think he's there to speak to CCP somehow by way of that channel. Not that I know that CCP, you know, monitors it that closely, anyways. But yeah, I think it's more to, you know, I think it's more just. You know, his opinions on what's going on right now within an audience that isn't just, you know, an echo chamber, let's call it.
I think for me that proves the success of this area as a forum for discussion compared to what happened when such people like him and others went into, say, like the tweet fleet Slack, and things would just absolutely melt down.
Which you were the founder and moderator of. Yeah, tell us
Yes, I
what
was
happened.
Well, no, I mean, I'm yes, I made the tweet fleet Slack. Although apparently everybody thinks that Steve did. And yeah, during World War B, they came on several times, and it was actually a big problem because like him and Zenuria would come on, and then everyone else would get upset, and so it was like, well, what do I do about this? I can't punish the guy. I can't punish Zenuria. He hasn't done anything besides like say 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And I can't like ban everyone in the chat. So it was always a big problem. But the fact that everybody can stay here with these very controversial figures and continue to remain civil and not attempt to provoke each other, I think it speaks volumes for the kind of community that you've developed here.
It's the moderation, right? This is pretty much the clean version of Reddit and Slack, right? It's been self-moderating really most of the time.
It really has. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's been invisible moderating because the first year or so, it was all done in private. But it's gotten so big that we've had to assign some moderators. Dirk is one of them, to go out there and just kind of show the badge.
Dirk is one of them. I mean, it just sounds so funny. Dirk's the moderator. Holy shit, Dirk's the moderator.
Dirk's the moderator. Yeah, this is the
That's
saloon.
What kind of sense does that make?
We had this great discussion about, we were trying to figure out the spirit of the place and how we wanted to moderate and stuff. And I was confused about it. So I asked people that I trusted. One of them was Dirk. And we were trying to recruit him to be the sheriff in town and come in and just kind of clean it up.
It's more fair to say it's that McLeod is a moderator. That makes more sense. That sets the standard better than saying it's Dirk's the moderator.
Dirk is like a sheriff that does all the drinking.
I don't moderate when I do that. Like I literally, if it's certainly when I'm doing the show on Friday night, or if I'm, at the pool or whatever, it's like I just go, look, I'm off duty. It's like anything I say from here is just me.
That's funny. I remember. I can imagine McLeod as like the deputy, that actually is the sane one.
I mean, the goal. Need a special title for Dirk when it's open comms night that takes him from not moderated today
offline, off duty. Right. Which I try to be anyways. But no, I mean, look, the goal of just so people out there understand, right? The goal of moderation in talking in stations is to not have to moderate. Is to just sort of try and get people to understand that, look, this ain't the place to be lobbing grenades. This isn't the place to be. If you want to do that, there are other places for you, and you should go there. It's to basically get people to self-moderate themselves based on the tone and tenor of talking in stations, right? It's a place for discussion. It's not a place for whatever. Even if once in a while you may get somebody that comes in there and says something disagreeable, it doesn't mean you got to take the bait and like go back, right? Because then it just turns it into a shit show. So I mean, that's been the struggle that we've been going on with, this summer, where we actually had to put some moderation in because things have gotten a little tense this summer, and it's drawn in a larger crowd in the process and things like that. But it's trying to get people to adapt to the place you're in. If you're in a bar, feel free to have a bar fight. If you're in church, please act that way. If you're someplace else, if you're in your own house, don't shit in it, kind of a thing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we the bar, the church, or the house?
Yeah, it's somewhere in between. Right? It's not, it's somewhere in between, right? Yeah, but it's just sort of like understand where you're at, right? I mean, I try and act generally differently, here than I do in other places. It's just recognize your circumstances and
read the room. That's what you said.
Read the room. Yeah.
I like that.
I just want to say,
Hi, Olmeca.
I appreciate. Hey guys, I appreciate it a lot. I mean, as a CSM, I prefer not to talk in CSM Discord because it's not moderated, and it makes a lot of difference when you're in a medium where you can share different ideas, and you're not gonna get. It's not going to be like Reddit, and at least have a civilized discussion you can get going, and it makes a lot of difference. So thank you.
Yeah, man, this is you're totally welcome to be here as long as Dirk doesn't shoot you dead. Dirk shot a man.
I don't shoot anybody anymore.
No, it's great to have you around because a lot of your ideas have a lot of traction and stuff. And yeah, you get a lot of pushback, but that's fine. That's exactly what we want. And as long as it's done in a way in the interest of the ideas do the fighting, not the personal stuff. So thanks. And welcome back. You're actually not home yet. You're traveling, right, Olmeca?
I'm all home in the sense that I'm in Turkey. But yeah, this is a vacation time for me, and I stopped playing Eve until after Vegas. So it's quite a long hiatus.
Until after Vegas.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, are you going to be away from the United States for that time?
No, I'll go back, but then I have to do some real life stuff, and I have 20 days until Vegas. So
okay. So you're
and then
going to be there?
After Vegas, we'll be traveling with my wife to at the West Coast. So yeah, it's a quite long vacation from Eve, and my friends are killing Titans and stuff, so I'm kind of feeling left out. But yeah, whatever.
Oh, who are your friends?
Oh, they killed the inner Titan right after
Oh.
the. That's you
So that
know.
Horde Vanguard?
The first Titan kill after the
Yeah.
cyno changes. I heard that
Yeah.
they kind of threw him under the bus afterwards.
Yeah, so what happens in these cases is like we have eyes on the target as DCPI, people operating in Delve or Fountain, and then we bat phone, and whoever comes gets to kill the Titan with us. And so it was Horde, it was, I think, Frat was there to some degree, right? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, McLeod, are you here?
I'm here, yeah.
Can you tell us about that Titan kill? Because it's kind of a groaner for you, isn't it? Since you're from Initiative.
Well, no, not really. I mean, it was kind of, the guy kind of wanted to bait out some stuff, but he didn't really, he didn't really plan it well. He didn't really coordinate with any of the FCs. Like, he just basically decided that he wanted to bait after the after downtime, but didn't really have all the pieces in place for him to save his Titan. So, I mean, you look at it when you look at his fit, like you can tell that he was baiting because he did actually have some tackle mods like in his mid sort of thing.
Mhm.
So like you don't generally tend to go around ratting with something like that on. So he was clearly looking for something to drop on him, but I don't think he was expecting quite what he got. Let's put it that way.
The Inquisition.
Yeah, he probably was expecting like something like a dread bomb maybe, and then he had a falcon, but he couldn't manage to light a cyno because he got drag bubble basically.
Yikes. Well, that's funny. The hunter became the hunted. It turned around on him. And he paid for it with not only a Titan, but a Falcon. And that was interesting because people were saying, look, this is how you do it. Now, if you want a cyno, you need a Falcon and you need to tank it up. And that way you can have enough time with it. It can survive long enough to actually bring in the ships.
It's much more than that. You need to time it well, and you have to actually get a position where you can light your cyno because the grid will be inhibited. So you either need the cyno beforehand on grid and light it before inhib goes online, or you have to get a warp in position from a scepter or something because they're going to get drag bubbled. And so it's kind of way more tricky than just have the Falcon. I guess that's what this Titan pilot didn't understand, and I feel like that's why Goons and everyone else kind of stopped capital ratting for a while to figure out what's the best way to respond. But I think there are legitimate responses. It's not like they're out of options, I think.
Yeah, the Imperium and Horde, and I think other big groups that have a lot of people that do capital ship stuff out there have said don't do anything for a week. Like you can do Rorqual mining, but that's very specialized. You have to wear a certain tank, etc. But don't do ratting in your super until we figure out how to navigate this situation.
Yeah. I mean, he did have a recon there, and it wasn't as if it was an ECM Falcon set up. Like it was set up for a tank, but it was only T2 setup. So it lasted an amazing 25 seconds when he deflipped. So
So what he could have done is maybe wait until your friends are ready, and you have backup.
he didn't.
Oh my god! Look, pop cyno.
Yeah, he several times I've seen him. I watched the video. I've seen him warp to the grid while being decloaked already. So he wasn't cloaked. He warped back and got dragged again, and it took quite some time for him to get a good position. And then he just cynoed up but died fast because we had like carriers and stuff on grid.
What is Pando saying here in chat? Well, he couldn't light the cyno anyway.
So he initially, I think he landed on inhibit grid, well, because he was bubbled he was dragged by bubbles, and there was mobile cyno inhibs on the grid. So that's what I'm saying.
I got you. For people that don't know, though, let me stop you here so people can understand what you're talking about. There are inhibitors that are portable, so that when you drop them in a certain area, you cannot light a cyno to bring in capital ships. And those things are probably going to become a lot more popular since they're mobile and they're a counter to people using cynos. Now, why weren't those things popular before?
Well, they were popular. Most of our kills in Delve are based on getting targets inhibited one way or another. They were popular, but now they become much more important because you by default you drop them whenever you attack some ratter, even if you hope that he gets inhibited and it gets anchored in 60 seconds and he gets inhibited. But even if not, by default you just drop it. And then now that with the changes, you drop it and you bubble around it and around the site. So if people warp to the Titan or warp to the anomaly, then they get dragged, right? When they get dragged, they cannot light their cyno. So what needs to happen from the local side is they need to get a good position, particularly probably with a Sept or nullified ship, and then warp your cyno to that good position, or just figure out a way to warp to the site without getting dragged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Pando says, he was pretty much baiting without backup. So,
and that's not baiting.
That's not baiting, is it? But it's okay. It's going to happen. He's just the first guy, right?
Like throwing a worm in the water with no hook on
it. That's not fishing. That's feeding.
Well, maybe he means scumming the waters.
Right.
Someone had to die. Someone had to die for it to be a warning to everyone else that the meta is now shifted and you have to be careful.
Yeah, right. Every time the meta shifts in these significant ways, there is a lesson that's learned. For instance, when Phoebe jump changes came in, the Imperium moved all their supers from the north all the way down to Delve in the south, or close to the Delve border. It took them hours, and then nothing happened, and they had to move all the way back. And it was something that they had done over and over again before the changes, but after the changes, it was a big deal. Same way with Black Legion came down for a fight in somewhere in the southern part of the map. They were coming out from Tribute, I believe, or up there, maybe even Venal. But they traveled a long way, and the whole time they were inhibited by these sabers that made them, it just really made them take a long time to get to this battle. And they were all they were all destroyed or self-destructed because nobody wanted to take that hike back. And all that was because the meta had shifted and travel was a lot more tiring. So you're gonna have people who are the first ones to figure out this doesn't work anymore. Well, Olmeca,
it'll work. I mean, look.
Yeah.
Eventually, right? The method will be there where it works. I mean, as Pando says, it's not like the guy had to probably light that cyno right away. It's probably not like he had to do it where he did it. I mean, it's not like you've got to be right in the thing, to pop that, to pop the cyno especially with an enemy fleet on field, right? I mean, there's probably going to have to be ways where you're outside of an area where your cyno is going to be able to live, but where you can get faxes in or whatever the hell it is, get them on grid where they can at least begin throwing reps. And it's going to take some time, but eventually it's going to work. Now, it's not going to work to the level that it did yesterday or the day before yesterday, right? The whole point of this is to throw some roadblocks in or some at least speed bumps into the responsiveness of safety umbrellas, whether they be super cap or otherwise.
So, Olmeca, we didn't think of asking you to be on the show because we figured you were traveling, but now that you're here, what was your experience like in CSM? This is the first time that you have been a CSM member.
Yeah. Going in, it was kind of worrying that we will be split it among CSM, and we would be counterproductive. The disagreements among us would be counterproductive, and I think this was a sentiment. I cannot speak about other people, but this was a sentiment from both NALSA candidates and I. And then, but we managed to give each other the benefit of the doubt. So and quickly in the first state established that they have seen that I'm not this person who is just going to pursue hunter or aggressive or offensive interests at the expense of the game itself. And I realized they are the same way. So once that is established, the rest was just CSM trying to get CCP on track. And at least, I mean, we still had disagreements, but we will. So when you agree on facts and problems and disagree on opinions and solutions, I think it's kind of actually more healthy for CSM to be that way. So CCP has this marketplace of ideas where they can choose from among the solutions.
Yeah, but
as long as we don't disagree on facts, we don't deny facts just because to get our own interests.
That's a very good point. But you still have like 8 different types of milk.
What do you mean by that?
They're still all the same. They're all still interested in the same gameplay, like nullsec PvP, and things that relate to that. Like that's the purview they're coming from.
I don't think that they're all looking at milk. I think that, so imagine there's a giant elephant, right?
Okay.
And then each person, there's like 6 people around it, and each of them have like this little area that they can see, and everything else is like covered by a sheet. And so they can describe what they see. And so no one person has an understanding of an elephant. But if you listen to each one of their descriptions together, you can begin to start to understand what the elephant looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
about perspectives.
Of course. But they don't have any perspectives that are not from that style of gameplay, right?
I don't know. I mean, so it depends. It depends what the elephant in your analogy is. Because if you mean the elephant as the problem, I think we all have. We are seeing the same things among each other. We're seeing the same problems, same issues that are haunting Eve, haunting people. The stagnation. Now it's people leaving the PCU. At least you guys are seeing that, and so if that's the elephant, then we are seeing the entire elephant. We are just full consensus. But the question is how to move from that, proceed from that, and that's actually more like a CCP problem anyway. That's less of a CSM problem.
It is not a CSM problem. I feel like that's part of the reason that CSM has limited legitimacy, I guess, because they are not representing the entire spectrum of gameplay that a more diverse group would. But you can't get a more diverse group because the people who are interested in voting aren't necessarily interested in representing their game style. I don't even think they think about it.
That's true. That's like that becomes important when particularly you think about like collateral damage scenarios, or just there's just something about this play style where it needs to be said, but nobody is immersed in that play style, so they're not saying that thing that needs to be said, and that's a problem. And so I think a more diverse CSM body definitely helps for CCP, as long as, again, as long as we don't disagree on facts, and we managed to do that, I think. So it's good. It's all good.
Do you think that CSM spend more of their time focusing on, like, quote unquote, the elephant problems, or how much time do you spend on, hey, this would be a cool, new thing to do in the game, something new and fun?
Both. I think we spend quite a good time on big ticket issues that the game is facing right now, and we also spend a considerable amount of time. We had just a session on like alternative, like playstyle viability, and we talked about alternative playstyles in nullsec and alternative playstyles outside nullsec. We gave them the whole picture. It's just what matters is what they have time for, right? So it's our job is kind of like giving them the whole picture and the problems in all areas of Eve, hopefully with a good representation. But then if those problems still don't get solved, it's not because we didn't relay the issues. It's more like they just don't have time for, or they have other priorities, and or typically they probably have like time for 10% of all Eve's problems. So which problems are going to get selected and get priority is a bigger deal.
Well, which issues are going to be selected, right, to get priority, and then how much priority are they going to get, and then how much development time are they going to get? Because there are different ways that you go to solve these issues, right? You can either do the low effort sort of way, or you could do the more effort sort of way. So that also comes into play.
But
exactly. I mean,
the important one, right? That's the one that will actually have the higher impact. Sometimes a lot of developer time is actually not what's needed.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it looks like, for example, there is no denial that the chaos, like particularly, I'm not even a big fan of drifters, but the blackout and cyno changes are chosen. I mean, they look like they are low effort, right? So it looks like maybe there's some dev time issues there, and maybe the higher effort, higher development approaches to null risk reward is they're more fruitful. So we definitely relate these issues.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it sounded like you were able to tell them what a lot of players that are disturbed by blackout, and maybe some that are excited about blackout.
Yeah. I mean, we had lots of excitements. Like if you have seen Jintan's video of Suetonia, there are people on the other side of the things that perceive blackout and cyno changes as great changes. So all these, I think all these approaches were represented, and at least, I mean, leaving the summit, we felt like we did our job, and it's on them now. It's their game, and at some point, it's their decision, right? Anyway, I need to go now. So
yeah, man, thanks for coming by.
You.
Thanks, Olmeca. See you later.
See you guys.
Take care. That phone call was my wife. She called to tell me a joke, and I didn't laugh, so she was unimpressed by me. All right.
Try it on us.
What's that?
Try it on us. See if we get it.
No.
So your wife told you a joke, you didn't laugh, and so she was
No, it was
not impressed with you. That's very. Never mind. All right.
I just
so
didn't-
there is some very interesting changes to the actual invasion sites now with the patch. We've now been able, a full day of running invasions. We now have our brain around at least a fair chunk of what these changes do for us. So the big changes are everything that does neuting has at least been doubled in how much they neut, which is a huge change. In particular, in the main nuding ship is the Starving Drekovic, and so now 3 Starving Drekovics can drain half of a Guardian's capacitor in a single cycle. So that's pretty extreme, especially since they can spawn at least 6 of them at a time. But they are also now basically paper thin. So it makes it that there's this, every wave, there's this super high priority target that you need to burn through. And the Logi that has to manage this crazy situation where like cap are breaking all over the place and stuff like that. But it only lasts for a few seconds if you do it right. Which actually makes a really compelling fight in a lot of ways. Although it does make the World Arc way deadlier. We cleared the World Arc yesterday, but we lost a Vindicator, a Harbinger, 3 Guardians, and like an Abaddon, I think it was. So it was a pretty gnarly blow. But that's just because the final Zoria's challenge is just so much harder now with all of that extra nuke pressure, and the towers that are part of the World Arc fight have now double the hit points. And so your tower that you have that teleports your guys away and the tower that jams your Logi, they both now are on the field twice as long. And since you basically have to kill the transportation pylon before you can kill Zoria and get off the field, then that makes Zoria's challenge take twice as long, which then you need to still kill the anchoring and get off field. So that's why we lost all those dudes. Like all that entire chunk of guys that got lost were all in the last 15, 20 seconds. Just trying to burn maybe half a minute. Just trying to burn everything down long enough, enough to get the anchorings off the field to get off the field once the Zoria is dead. Now, the other major change is they put an acceleration gate on Zoria's, or on the Zardash, the World Arc.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you warp to the World Arc, you actually warp to a rift, which is an acceleration gate that brings you into the site itself. This is really interesting because, first of all, it makes bouncing a little bit different, because now, like, if you get teleported off, you could bounce to a nearby Celestial and come back, but now you would have to bounce to a nearby Celestial and then back to the acceleration gate and then back inside, which takes a little bit longer. So we've been experimenting with our Logi actually just burning back in because they've got long enough range to get back into Logi range pretty quickly. So there's a lot of questions about how to best deal with that encounter. We weren't really sure about why the acceleration gates were put in. It seemed like it wasn't really for our sake. It didn't really make the site naturally harder. It didn't really make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're seeing the sites appear in low sec, it makes a ton more sense. Because if you're going to have people running these sites, especially World Arcs in low sec, you're going to want an acceleration gate, just like a Plex. So that way, the Force, if they really, really wanted to, could try to break contact and get out, assuming somebody comes in to try to kill them.
Well, so are you going to be doing these all week?
Yeah, we do them every day, pretty much. So it's still, it's a lot of fun. We decided that, I think across the board, we all decided that it was way more difficult, but also lots more fun. It's just a little bit more engaging. It wakes you up. I did warp our fleet into just a meat grinder. About halfway through the day, we lost, I think, 3 or 4 Guardians there too. Because it's when things are rough, they get really rough real fast. But
Reminds me
even
of
in spite of
incursions.
that,
Yeah.
say again?
That reminds me of incursions. I think when things break down, they really break down.
Well, incursions are all very scripted. So if you know what you're doing, it's just about like going through the motions. In invasions, all of the rats, like the waves, are randomized which rats you get, and kind of to a certain extent how many.
Mhm.
So like one wave may have only 1 starving Drekovic and 2 renewing Redivas, and then the next wave might have 6 starving Drekovics and 4 renewing Redivas, and now you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Or this wave may have 2 Zorias Leshaks on top of it. So now, you know, that's crazy too. So, you know, it can spike that way. But then also there's those roaming bands, right? These roaming bands can be huge. They can be multiple Leshaks. You know, they can be a full major wave by themselves. And they can land on any site at any time. So you're doing a major, you know, you've got a big spawn that you're dealing with. And then on top of that, you've got 2 warp-ins. You can have problems. And in that case, what you have is the way the majors work is that once the first person goes there, it triggers this event. The minors have only 1 portal. Majors have 4. And so basically there's this timed rollout where each portal appears one at a time, and then more rats come out. So it's one of those things that, like, if you're there and you can grind through it, you can kind of keep up and not be overwhelmed. But what some people will do is just warp to all the different majors, so that way they're all pre-spawned. So that way you have to fight the entire room at the same time, which is already rough. And then when you warp in, you notice that there's actually 2 warp-ins already sitting there too. So now I've got 3 waves from or 3 to 4 waves from the actual pre-spawn, and 2 waves from warp-ins. That's how Guardians die.
Gotcha.
Would micro jumping Nestor be a counter for that teleporting logic problem, or is that too expensive?
That would definitely work. Yeah, micro jump drives is one of the things that we've been thinking about. The problem is, well, one of the biggest problems with, yeah, it could work.
Done.
It would be an option.
All right. Well, we got to wrap up. It's been an hour. And I just want to say, any last comments from you guys? All right.
Eve speaks to Hilmar in dreams.
G Fleet this weekend.
That's right. G Fleet's this weekend.
G Fleet's this weekend. That will be streamed.
Yeah, that starts on. Does it start on Friday or Saturday? It'll be Friday US.
Friday and Saturday. It'll be Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday. Okay.
Friday,
so we'll dedicate
Friday and Saturday.
Dedicate a show to previewing it. I don't know how much information we can get before that. Once again, if you're going to Vegas, and guess what? It turns out I'm going. I booked my rooms. Yeah, I'll be there. There'll be some TIS guys there. Gosh, there'll be a little tribe of them. I think there'll be 5 or 6, maybe the most we've ever had. So we're going to have a meetup and then hang out with the fans too. And so that'll happen, Vegas. I'm sorry if you can't be there. We'll try to do something for FanFest next year. I'm trying to make a plan to go to Iceland to do that once for all. But for now, it's just Vegas that I can go to in about 48 days, I think, right? Is that what you said, Dirk?
I don't know. I think it's like 42 now or something. Depending on when you're coming in. I think it's like 42 to the Wednesday or something.
Yeah, but basically like a month and a half. So yeah, that will be awesome. And if you want to go to Vegas as a speaker, which I recommend, it's a lot of fun. You can look on, I think it's Eve information on Eve forums, and look for the call for speakers. So that came out, I think, a few days ago.
Are you planning on, well, somebody's asking, will you be streaming from Vegas? Do you have any plans for streaming from Vegas, whether it be the Sunday show or anything in between?
Yeah, no plans. If we do, it'll be on a Sunday. It'll be casual. Carneros is saying, please, no, because it's just hard to wake up that early. It's the West Coast, so people would have to get up at 8 o'clock or sooner, and then show up by 9 o'clock to roll. And I could do it, no problem. But the other guys would be too exhausted. Dirk, I think, wouldn't make it, would you?
2 years ago, I did. 2 years ago, I believe Apotheny was actually hosting the the Sunday talking in station, and I think it went off out there at like morning or something like that. Bed over to my laptop at my desk, and
Did you get on camera? I think you called. You called.
no,
Yeah.
it was just voice.
I remember that. You're like, oh.
It's pretty.
That's
Yeah, it's
good.
pretty painful. It's pretty painful doing like even for open comms, right? Which we do on Thursday nights out there. Like that kicks off at 6 o'clock, which is normal go time, except that we're on. Except we're like 3 hours earlier on the West Coast, right? So for a morning show or whatever you want to call it, a midday show like Talking in Stations, that puts it in at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Well, let me know right now with X's in chat if you guys would want to see Talking in Stations from Eve Vegas. Also, let me know on Discord if you're hearing this through the podcast version or YouTube seeing it later. But let me know what you guys think about doing it. I love doing the show, so it would be easy to do it if they're streaming. And last time Streamfleet was so good about just setting everything up, so all we had to do was come in and just do it. I think
that's what I would tell you to do. Yeah. I mean, hook up with Streamfleet and just try and get it as part of. It wouldn't necessarily be Talking in Stations, right? In terms of on the channel, but if you could roll with them and just maybe have it added in as some sort of hour-long, segment where maybe you interview some people there, for an hour.
Yeah, I think I'll talk to Carneros. It'll be tough for him to do it. I think, and I don't think he wants the pressure. I can totally understand where he's coming from and other people. But yeah, maybe it's just something less formal. Like we did last time, we really just kind of talked about what had happened, and then we brought people on as they kind of were hanging around, because there's about 10, 15 people hanging around. So we just grab them and put them on the couch and say, hey, man, tell us what it's like, or, what's your experience like? And we talk about what they did if they were speakers, and that worked out okay. What's nice about that is it lets people feel like they're a part of it, and seeing a different part of it instead of just the streamed stuff. Another thing I did a few years ago, 2016, was just to roam around and do interviews with people, and I posted those, but I don't know if those got a lot of views, but they definitely were neat because it felt like you were at the convention. So bringing more of behind the scenes to people who can't be there, I think, is a really good thing. So I don't know. There's a lot of X's, so we'll check it out. We'll talk about it. No decisions yet, but I only learned I was going to Vegas like a day or two ago, so now I'm starting to consider all the things.
Yeah, I just threw it out in the Twitch chat, and if there is anybody going to Vegas who is interested in doing a player presentation or whatever, now is the time to file for that. So make sure you do if you want to go and do that sort of thing.
All right.
Are you going to try? Are you going to try Metro? Are you going to?
Player presentation?
I know that's it's something you've done.
You know what I don't want to do? I don't want to do Continuum of War Part 3. Like, I think the last one was, it was not a good situation. I couldn't get through it. I was coughing, and it was just not a good. So I may not, but I don't know if I can think of something that's interesting to people, then I would. I would like to do another presentation, yeah, but I don't really know. It's up in the air too. I don't know. Are you going to do one? You don't do these things.
I do know that you struggled, but they're very interesting, and you do a very good job either way.
Oh, thanks, man. All right, I'll consider it. I mean, I love speaking, and now that I am going for sure, it's a little easier to consider doing it. All right, everybody, thanks for showing up today. I have one last message for you, and that is a plea to, I'll just read it because it was prepared for me, but since you listened all the way to the end of the podcast, we'd love to hear what you thought about it. Consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever you consume your podcasts on. You'll be helping the show, and while you're at it, thank you. So yeah, I want to say, it's hard for people to find Talking in Stations when they just type in EVE Online. It just doesn't even come up. And that's just because there's not a lot of ratings there. But if you could put ratings, write reviews, and that sort of thing, I think it bumps it up higher so that when people look for EVE Online podcasts, they'll find Talking in Stations or Today in EVE. And I want to say thanks very much to everybody that supports us. it's bought equipment and it's helped us get some people to Vegas. And it's paid for a lot of subscriptions that we use for things and tools that help out the Discord. So if you want to help out, that you can go to talkinginstations.com and look for the contributor buttons and become part of that family. You get a color inside of Discord to distinguish yourself. Not even Matani has a color, right? But if you are a supporter, you will get a color, and we would appreciate that very much. Okay, that's everything for today, September 11th. We will see you tomorrow. Oh, stay tuned for a raid. We're going to hit Bjorn Borg. Here you go. Let's let that count down.
Bjorn Borg.
Oh, I was watching tennis earlier. Did I say Bjorn Borg? Wow.
What?
Bjorn B. All right. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.
In classic